We will be starting in just a minute. Give folks a little bit more time to log on. Okay, I think we're ready to begin. So this is Shannon Todd with the PG&E California Advanced Homes Program webinar. And thanks to everyone for joining. Today we'll be sharing a brief overview of what the program's all about, but mostly we'll be focusing on updates to the program this year, kind of coinciding with the launch of the 2016 Title 24 standards. We can move on to the next slide. Great, so we're using GoToWebinar today, our standard process for presentations. And we welcome you to enter questions into the toolbar on your right. We'll be pausing periodically to answer your questions, so just enter them as they come to your mind. I will interrupt our panelists to ask them. We'll not be unmuting anyone today. And we will be recording the webinar, so we'll share a copy of that to everyone that registered, along with the presentation slide deck and other application materials that we referenced during the presentation. So this particular training is sponsored by Pacific Gas and Electric Company, who provides the incentives for the program. The program is offered statewide, but we're speaking specifically about PG&E's program today. Next slide. Great, so a quick overview for you guys if you're not familiar with the program. This is the incentive program for single-family new construction offered in Pacific Gas and Electric Territory, SoCalGas, and SDG&E. There's also a multifamily version of the program in PG&E territory. It's known as California Multifamily New Homes. So the program is intended to help builders, energy consultants, and raters to build more efficient homes. So we provide incentives and design assistance to do that. Okay, next slide. So just a really quick overview of some of the major requirements for the program. This year we're accepting applications for homes that permit under the 2016 standards. Homes have to receive PG&E service. They have to be new construction. To participate in the California Advanced Homes Program, which is considered the single-family program in PG&E territory, it has to be a single-family home or a duplex. I think we also include townhomes there, but you can work with your energy consultant to figure out the right interpretation. And then most importantly, the homes have to meet CAHP's energy performance requirements, which we'll be talking about a lot today. And in terms of requirements for energy consultants, they have to hold either a 2013 or a 2016 CEA certificate. Next slide. Okay, so we're about ready to hand it over to our primary panelist today, which is Nick Dunphy. He's an associate project manager with TRC. And I should mention also TRC is the implementer of the California Advanced Homes Program on behalf of PG&E. So Nick will be sharing about updates to the program in 2017, including new program kickers and a new metric for how to calculate program incentives. So I will hand it over to Nick. And as I said before, we're recording this session, and you're welcome to enter questions into the toolbar as Nick's presenting. Okay, Nick, over to you.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank everybody for taking the time out of your day to be here. And let's get into it. So I'm going to start out today with the program overview. I'm going to talk about a summary of the changes to the 2017 program. I'm going to go into some detail about the energy design rating, what the different design ratings are, and how they relate to the program. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the splitting of the program into climate zone groups. So let's start with the update overview. With the 2016 code, CAHP's going to update requirements. We're going to update the incentive levels, and we'll update the program mechanics to go along with the changes in the code. To start with, we're going to operate under the same structure as during the 2013 code. What this means for you is that the process as far as the paperwork, as far as your communication with TRC, it's all going to stay the same. It's all going to be cohesive with the last program. We're not going to make any changes beyond what needs to be changed to fit to the new code. The new program is going to support zero net energy as defined by Title 24 using TDV energy. We're switching from the CAHP score to the energy design rating. Like I said, I'll get into that in a lot more detail in a moment. We're switching from one score that works across the state of California. We're going to switch that to inland and coastal climate zones. We're updating the kicker options and the mechanisms of how these kickers actually work and affect your incentive. And all the changes I'm talking about today are applicable to all 2016 code permitted homes, and that started on 1/1/2017. So let's talk a little bit about the change from EDR to CAHP score. For those of you who attended our webinar back in November, I believe it was, this will be a little bit of a review of the first part of this, but bear with me, we'll get to some new information in a moment. So the EDR versus CAHP score, the similarities. Both are modelable in the CEC software. They both generate a score from 0 to 250 to rate the homes on whole energy efficiency. They both use TDV energy, and they both use a Title 24 rule set. So what's the differences? The difference between the two is simply the reference home used to define a score of 100. And that difference is for the CAHP score was using a 2008 Title 24 home. The EDR score is aligning with a 2006 IECC home, which actually brings the EDR score more into alignment with the ResNet HERS rating. The difference there is that the EDR score takes TDV into account since we are in the state of California, and the ResNet HERS rating does not. We like to use the analogy when we're talking about the switch from CAHP to EDR. It's a lot like switching from Fahrenheit to Celsius. We're still measuring the same thing. We're still measuring whole home energy. We're just using a different scale. We're using a different baseline to rate those. So let me go into a little more detail about the energy design rating. There are 5 different EDR ratings, 4 of which are currently modelable in the CEC software. The 5th, which applies to this program, should be released in the next software release, which is scheduled for Q2 of this year. So let's start talking about the different ratings. So we have the standard design EDR. So this is kind of like your baseline EDR. It's the EDR if the home were designed using the prescriptive path. So what the software does is it looks at the basic specs of the home, it applies the prescriptive path, and gives it the EDR score if the home were to take the prescriptive path. After that, we have the proposed design EDR, and this is the EDR as designed with performance trade-offs. And the proposed design EDR does not take any generation into account. It looks strictly at the efficiency of the home. Then we have the proposed PV EDR. This EDR score is the EDR score for the generation for the PV system itself. And then we have the final proposed EDR. So these last 2 EDRs are the 2 that we are going to deal with the CAHP program. First of all, the final proposed EDR is the final EDR with the home as designed, including the solar generation. So this is the actual end-use final proposed EDR. And then we also have the CAHP EDR. The CAHP EDR, which I'll get into a little more detail about how it's calculated in a moment, is what we are going to use for program eligibility and to set the base incentive level. The CAHP EDR is not currently in the software, but like I said, we should have it in the software by the second quarter of this year, the very next software release. So this year we're going to split the program into two groups, coastal and inland. This is due to the extreme climate in the inland climate zones makes achieving higher efficiency and a lower EDR a little easier. So they have a little more stringent EDR score for entry. As you can see, the coastal climate zones are 1 through 7 and 16, and the inland climate zones are 8 through 15. So now I'm going to dive into the kickers. I'll give you an overview of the kickers. Then I will talk about the different types of kickers. EDR performance embedded kickers, or what we like to call points kickers, bonus cash kickers, hybrid kickers, and then we have Z&E kickers. So the four types of program kickers: EDR performance embedded kickers, what we like to call points kickers. These are energy saving measures that currently aren't captured in the modeling software. So we are going to award EDR point reductions for implementation of these measures. We have cash bonus kickers, which are just what they sound like. They're green non-modeled measures that don't lead to direct energy reductions, but do show a goal of efficiency. They do show that the home is moving towards efficiency, so we're going to award a cash bonus for those. We have hybrid kickers. So the reason we're referring to these as hybrid kickers is these kickers, the measures are actually modelable. So you are already getting the performance boost and the EDR score, and we're going to give you a cash kicker on top of it just to kind of to let you know the importance of these measures and try to help get over that hurdle and start getting these measures implemented a little more often. And finally, we're going to look at Z&E kickers. And Z&E kickers are cash bonuses for either zero energy readiness or actually the construction of zero energy homes. So now let's start off with the points kickers, the EDR performance embedded kickers. So the first one of these is the 100% LED lighting. If you install all LED lighting for all hardwired fixtures and they meet the state requirements for lighting in new residential structures, then we will give you a 1-point reduction on your EDR score. The second one is a home energy management system. For the HEMS, we will give you a 2-point reduction. There's several stipulations for the HEMS. The HEMS must track multiple end uses within the home, including all HVAC equipment and all plug loads. The HEMS must provide a method of the user to access energy use information and/or history via a user interface. And we're offering an alternate compliance path for this. If the HEMS is not installed, we will still give the 2-point bonus once we verify that the home is wired so that no plug load, lighting load, or appliances share a common circuit. So what that means is if I go switch any breaker in the box, it should only turn off either a plug load, lighting load, or an appliance. You can have multiple circuits for different lighting throughout the home. It's just that none of those circuits can share end usage of plug load, lighting load, and appliances on the same circuit. The next set of kickers are the cash bonus kickers. We're going to give a $400 cash bonus for Department of Energy Zero Energy Ready Home Certified homes. And we're going to give a $100 bonus for homes that are installing a balanced IAQ ventilation system. The caveat with these is that as part of the DOE Zero Energy Ready Home program, they require a balanced IAQ ventilation. Therefore, we cannot award these two kickers to the same home. So if you are participating in the Department of Energy Zero Energy Ready Home program, you only receive $400. You will not receive the additional $100 for the balanced IAQ, since it is a requirement of the DOE program. If you're not participating in the DOE program and you are installing a balanced IAQ ventilation system, then you will receive a $100 cash bonus for all those lots. So hybrid kickers, again, these are the kickers that already have a embedded savings in the modeling. So you're already getting a boost in your EDR score, or a reduction in your EDR score, I should say, for implementing these measures. And then we're going to give you a cash bonus on top of that to help push these measures along. So for a whole house fan, must be in accordance with Title 24 Part 6 standards, and we will give you a $100 bonus for installing the whole house fan. High performance attics, high performance walls, both need to be in accordance with the 2016 Title 24 Part 6. And for both of these, we will award a $200 cash bonus. And for the high performance attics, we will also award the $200 bonus for totally sealed attics as well. And the last hybrid kicker, this one is high performance fenestration. This kicker will be awarded to homes that are designed and built with all triple pane windows. So here are the big kickers for the program. In order to qualify for these Z&E kickers, the home must first qualify for the program without any solar being taken into account. The CAHP program is an efficiency program. We are not a generation program. So we want to make sure that the homes are meeting the efficiency standards before we award any extra bonuses for generation at the lots. So our first Z&E kicker is for a Z&E ready home. And for this, the home must meet the CAHP EDR for eligibility for entry into the program. So your CAHP EDR must hit the entry point for the program. And then once that is achieved, we will look at your final proposed EDR. And that is the EDR taking solar into account. So for the Z&E ready kicker, if that final proposed EDR, when modeled with a 3 kW system, reaches a final proposed EDR of 0, we consider that zero energy ready, and we will award those lots a $500 bonus. Now for a Z&E home, the difference between these two is the Z&E ready home is not actually installing solar, and they are just modeling it with a 3 kW system to show that they reach that EDR of 0. For the zero net energy home kicker, again, the CAHP EDR must meet the eligibility requirement, and the final proposed EDR with solar installed reaches 0. It doesn't matter the size of the system, as long as the system that's being modeled and installed reaches an EDR of 0, and you meet the CAHP eligibility score, you will receive $1,000 per lot for being Z&E ready, or for implementing a Z&E home. And this is a note that CAHP refers to the current CEC definition of Z&E, meaning net zero total TDV energy. So now I'm going to talk about how we calculate the incentives. Like I said, this will be built into the next software release, but for now we have a couple methods to calculate the incentives. I'll give you a little bit of background here. So let's talk about the entry points. So this is looking at the inland group. For the inland group, for the primary cooling region of the state, we have a CAHP entry score of 44. If you meet that entry score, you'll receive a base incentive of $500 per lot. For every point between, it should say between 44 and 40, we will award an extra $150 per point. And for every point below 40, we will award an additional $300 per point as a base incentive. The coastal group works very similarly. The difference is the entry score on the coastal group is a 48, and we will still issue a $500 entry-level incentive. For every point between 48 and 44, we will give a $200 per point bonus. For every point below 44, for going that extra mile and getting a much better, much more efficient home, we're going to award those points with $400 per point for everyone below a score of 44. So we're going to use the CAHP EDR score is what we're using to determine eligibility. So in the chart before, when it gave the eligibility of 44 and 48, we are talking about the CAHP EDR score. So this is how we calculate the CAHP EDR score. We take the proposed design EDR as it comes out of the CEC software. We subtract any points for the performance embedded kicker points, so that would be the 100% LED lighting or the home energy management system, which can give you up to a 3-point reduction in your CAHP score, and that will equal your CAHP EDR. So just as an example, if you model a home, the software gives you a 45.2 as your proposed design EDR. Your home is installing 100% LED lighting. That's a 1-point reduction. That brings your CAHP EDR score down to a 44.2. At a 44.2, we look at the incentive chart. We see that the EDR must be less than the minimum eligibility score for that climate zone. So with a 44.2, that score is less than a 45. So the incentive in the coastal zone would be $1,100 as a base level incentive for that home. And unfortunately, that home in the inland group would not be eligible. The home needs to meet or break that 44 threshold in order to receive incentives. So let's talk a little bit about the program implementation details. A little change to the program this year is we are going to accept lots at the plan level as opposed to the project level. So what that means is previously, if you were to enroll a project in CAHP, every plan on every lot needed to be eligible for the CAHP program in order to enroll the project. We are no longer going to enforce that rule. We are now going to look at projects at the plan level, which means that as long as all 4 orientations of a plan are eligible, we will take all the lots that those plans are built on and incentivize those lots. And if there happens to be a plan in the project that is not eligible for CAHP incentives, then we just simply won't pay out incentives on that lot, but we won't penalize the other lots that are eligible within the same project. And I just need to emphasize that we are an efficiency program. Though you can use PV offset for your Title 24 compliance, PV offset will not be used to gain entry into the CAHP program. We look at efficiency first for eligibility, and then we look at generation only in the case of awarding Z&E kickers to the homes. And permit to program rules apply. This means that if the home was permitted after January 1st of 2017, it is the 2016 code cycle and must be enrolled in the 2017 CAHP program. So for more information, you can find more information at our new CAHP, pgne.com website. And actually, let me see if Shannon has any questions before we go, before I dive into the website here.
Yeah, I have 2 questions, and if anyone has them now, just I'd say type them in now, and we'll probably take a few more questions after Nick shares the website. But This is, let's see, two, a few clarifying questions. I think you answered this one, but I'll reiterate it. Can you use EDR performance embedded kickers to qualify for entry to the program? I think that example you shared was the perfect demonstration of that, where the home took lighting points and qualified in coastal zone, I think at least.
Yes, that's correct. So we're going to look at the CAHP EDR score for entry into the program, and the CAHP EDR score is the EDR score that actually takes those point kickers into account.
Okay, so I've got another question about the various zero net energy incentives, the kicker incentives. So I know we've got 3 incentives that speak specifically to zero net energy, the DOE incentive for homes that certify under that program, plus kind of more calculated zero net energy incentives. Can you combine, so this is the question, Nick, can you combine the DOE certification incentive with either of the zero net energy cash kickers, the ZNE kickers, sorry?
Yes, you can. The only 2 kickers that you can't take together are the Department of Energy Zero Net Energy Home and the Balanced IAQ Ventilation. Those are the only 2 that cannot be taken together. All the rest of the incentive kickers are all stackable. So you can claim every one of the kickers if you implement and you are a DOE certified and you break the entry score eligibility and you hit an EDR of 0, you can stack all those incentives on top of one another.
But you couldn't take the ZNE ready kicker and the ZNE kicker.
No, no, it's one or the other. If you're installing, I'm sorry, those 2 are interchangeable. If you're installing solar or if you're not installing solar.
Right.
So one's for installed and one's just for solar ready.
Yes, great. Okay. Question about the fenestration kicker. Does that triple pane window requirement include sliders?
That is a good question. This is a fairly new kicker. Let me take that question offline, and we will send out an update when we send out the slides. That is a very good question.
That is a good question. Noted. Okay, here's another nitty-gritty question. With the lighting kicker, are fans, I'm assuming fans with lighting, are those included in the requirement for 100% LED?
Yes, any hardwired lighting that is hardwired in the home when the owner takes possession needs to be LED.
Great. Okay, so, I want to make sure I understand this question. You might be able to interpret it, Nick. The question is there a minimum solar size to utilize the PV credit? So I'm assuming this is for the zero net energy incentives kickers. If they can get a 0 score with a smaller PV system, is that allowed?
So it depends on if you're taking the zero energy ready or you're actually taking the zero energy home. If you are actually installing solar, we don't care what size the system is as long as it hits a proposed design EDR of 0. Since you're installing the solar, we just want to see that you hit the 0. We don't care what size the system is. If you're going for a zero energy ready, where you're not actually installing the solar, but you're going to claim the credit for being zero energy ready, then the modeled size of the PV system should be a 3 kW system, and that is based on the code required solar ready zone is the equivalent size to fit approximately a 3 kW system. So that's why we use that metric, because we know the home's already going to have a solar ready zone of that size. So that's what we use to stipulate if it's zero energy ready or not, excuse me, is the 3 kW system. So if you're installing solar, it doesn't matter, you just have to hit the EDR 0. If you're not installing solar and you're going for the zero energy ready credit, then you have to model a 3 kW system, and that EDR has to hit 0 with a 3 kW system modeled.
Perfect. Great. Okay, question for you about the, I might just answer this. Is there a spreadsheet calculator for the CAHP EDR? Nick's going to share that shortly, so you'll see that. It's on our website. Question, is there a website for SoCalGas and SDG&E? They do have websites. I think ours go into a little bit more detail on like program requirements, which should be consistent across the programs as far as I know. I'll let Nick contradict me. Yeah.
No, that's fine. All the entry requirements are the same across the state. There's a couple extra water incentives that one of the southern utilities offer as part of the program, but besides that, they function the same. As far as their websites go, I can't attest to their websites, what they are, what the validity of those websites are.
Okay, yes. And we can share links to those too, maybe in our follow-up email to this webinar. Okay. I'm sorting through the questions. I see a policy question about the 2019 code. Do you want to take that, Nick?
Let's focus on the CAHP program, and I believe TRC is hosting a webinar next month, I believe, about a 2019 code talk. And that would probably be the forum to bring up a question like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I forget if it's next month. It might be in May. We'll share that information. Okay, are fans considered lighting load for the HEMS wiring requirement?
That is another good question that I will have to address and take offline. That's very good feedback.
Okay. I think I'm gonna let you. We have a few more questions, but I think I'll let you show the website and the incentive calculator.
Okay, that's probably a good idea. Let's make sure we get through it, and then I'll come back to questions again at the end.
Great.
Okay, so we have a new CAHP website that actually Shannon, I want to thank her. She played a major role in getting this new website set up. I feel it's a lot more user-friendly than our past website. So let me just go to it here. Show you the home page. So here's the home page of the website. These are little drop downs that you can click to get more information on what's needed to show that you're in PG&E service territory. Advanced energy performance will give you some more information. So just make sure you see that these are drop downs where you can attain more information. You can come down here, and this is the resources to participate. So this is information if you want to learn about the program. This will link to the updated handbook, which should be coming out in the next month. Currently it links to the 2016 program. We will have a new handbook shortly. This will tell you how to enroll. It's all the application materials that you might need. This is where you would go if you need to make changes to an existing project that's already been accepted. This is where you get your adjustment application. And then when you're done with construction, you can move over to this link, and this is where you get your incentive request forms, and it walks you through the process of what we need to request incentives. So if you were to go to enroll, over here there's a link to the application checklist, and this CAHP incentive calculator, which I'm going to review now. So this is the temporary incentive calculator that we are going to use, and it's available on the website until we have the CAHP EDR built into the new software additions. So to use the calculator, you just come in and you pick a climate zone. As you can see, you pick the climate zone, and it'll automatically pick which climate zone, which group you're in, either the inland or coastal. You're going to take the final design EDR out of the software. So let's say you got a 45.2. Your final proposed EDR with solar was a 23. You're taking the LED lighting, you're doing high performance walls, you're doing balanced IAQ, and you'll see that your incentive, base incentive for that lot is $1,400. These are the only, this row is your inputs, and these are all outputs. And whenever you go to do this, we have been making updated versions. I would suggest when going to the website regularly and downloading this and making sure that you have the most recent version whenever you start checking a project. Other things in the calculator that could be useful, there's instructions. Just show you basically what I just walked through. There are definitions. These are definitions for the EDR scores. They're definitions for the kickers and requirements. And then I have useful links out here where you can get to the CAHP website, the Z&E orientation I did back in November, our YouTube page, just some useful links that might be helpful. But no, this will be used and available on the website until we have the integration into the software. Any questions on the incentive calculator, Shannon? I will take that.
Sorry.
Okay.
It took me a little while to unmute myself. Okay. Yes, I do have a question about the calculator. So if it's a community that runs plans cardinally, should they just enter the highest EDR on the calculator, or should they be like copying tabs? How should they do that?
Yeah, just enter the. I would enter the worst performer and see what that is,
okay.
Because we need. So even though we're going at the lot level, we still need that plan to be eligible in all 4 orientations. Mm-hmm. So we will approve a plan. We won't approve a plan that only fits in one orientation. So your best bet for right now would be to put in the worst performer and see what that incentive level is.
Great. So I think that answers the question. Do the lowest EDR. And I'll just chime in too. You were sharing the website. For anyone going on there today, we might not have the application up yet, but it'll be available soon. And we'll also be sending it, we always send a follow-up email to our webinars. So we'll include the application and I think a few other things like the letter of interest there too. So the website will have that information current in the next couple of days.
Great. So then back to the website, on the same page with how to participate, there's a link to the application, which Shannon just said needs updated. It'll probably be updated in the next day or so. But here is what the new application looks like. We have gotten the application down to a single page. And this application is actually going to be a single application that we are going to use for both the CAHP single family program and the CMF&H multifamily program. It's going to be one application just to make it easier on everybody involved. And then we actually have a new email address to submit these applications. It's rnc@trcsolutions.com. The old CAHP web address will still be functional. We're just using this residential new construction, rnc@trcsolutions.com, as a common email to accept applications for our multiple residential new construction programs. That way we can get the applications and make sure everybody's going to the appropriate programs. And we're not asking people to go back and fill out the correct application if they happen to fill out a CAHP and it should be CMF&H or vice versa. So we hope that this will save everybody a little bit of time. We've definitely condensed the application down to one page. We'll still need all the other information to go along with it, the models, the plans, your Title 24 documents. We'll still need all that, the will serve, but we just hope that this makes everything a little bit easier for everybody involved having the one-page application.
Hopefully everyone's rejoicing right now.
Yeah. And like Shannon said, we'll be sending out copies of the new application, and we actually have updated incentive request forms. We have updated project adjustment forms. These have all been updated to the new program recently. They're not live on the website yet, but we will send out links in the follow-up, and they'll be live on the website within a few days. So just hold tight on those. So one other thing on the website, so I went through this application, and if you go into these other links, it's very similar with the adjustment applications, the IRFs. The other thing I want to point out here is our news, tips, and trainings. You can go here for events that are coming up. This webinar was listed on here. Decoding talks that are coming up are listed and past. We have articles from our newsletters are up here, from our email blast. Any program updates will be posted here. And these are all searchable. There's an article on here about the EDR scores, the 5 EDR scores, and why there's 5 of them and what they are. It goes into a lot more detail than what I just did in the webinar if you're looking for information on that. And this is all searchable within the website. You can search key terms and pull up all these old postings to see any articles that you've missed or anything that you're looking for in the program. This is all searchable. So you might, whenever you're on the site, you might check over here just to see upcoming trainings, upcoming events, or we plan on posting some tech tips, modeling tips, things to hopefully help everybody in the program and help everything work more smoothly.
Great. Nick, I have a question for you.
Okay.
I know you know the answer to this. So how do homes that are split between PG&E and, say, SMUD or Roseville Electric work with us? Okay,
so that is a very good question. TRC actually implements utility programs, new residential construction programs for both SMUD and Roseville Electric. So when you submit this application, this new application to RNC at TRC Solutions, if you do not have a RAP, which is the Roseville Advanced Homes Program application, or the SMUD Smart Homes application with that, once our intake analyst, Allison, who is wonderful, once she sees that you are in the Roseville or SMUD district, she will contact you to talk to you about those programs and see if you want to apply for those programs. If you want to apply to those electric side programs within those utilities, they cover basically the electric portion of the CAHP incentive, and they're based off the CAHP program with a few caveats of prerequisites, which I won't get into in this webinar. But when you apply, if you have a project in those territories, our outreach specialist will let you know that those programs are available. But if you don't enroll in those programs, you will receive only the portion of the utility that PG&E is serving. So in those two, for instance, you would receive the gas portion of the incentive, which is another, we're still ironing out the percentage split, so I'm not going to quote one currently, but we should have a incentive split between gas, electric set up in the following weeks as well, so you can have a better idea of where your incentives want to fall if you only are serviced by one commodity. Hope that wasn't too much of a mouthful.
No, I think that was good. Basically, we implement the program for SMUD in Roseville, TRC does, so it should be really easy for you if you want to apply to both programs.
So one last thing I wanted to touch on is the WISE program, which is the Workforce Instructions for Standards and Efficiencies, which TRC is a part of. This is a publicly funded program. through the CPUC that provides hands-on training and education for advanced building techniques, which focuses a lot on the same things that the CAHP program is focusing on. It focuses on high-performance walls and high-performance attics. If you've never attended a WISE forum, it is a fun experience. I would highly recommend it. It is normally a meeting where they have different vendors come in with their new energy efficient products, and they talk about their products, and they talk about the installation and where they're going with the products and how they can help you achieve this, move towards this 2019 code goal. It's a great program. Like I said, TRC takes part in these, and I would highly recommend it to anybody working with the CAHP program. This is an invaluable resource to take advantage of. So what to expect next? The CBEC software integration, we are currently working with the CEC to get all the programming embedded for all the new kickers and for the CAHP EDR score. So when you see the next iteration of the software coming out, it should have the CAHP EDR score embedded, and it should have checkboxes for all the kickers, and we'll give you a CAHP report like the 2016 program did. Multifamily CMF&H design is well underway, and we should be getting approval of the design within the next month or two, and that program should be going live by Q2 of this year. And please check back to the CAHP website for news, tips, and trainings in the section I showed you there at the end. And we will see you next month at the Housing California Conference. Do we have any other questions, Shannon?
No, I think, oh, actually, no, I have one that I'd like to pose. A few others have posed questions that we'll just take offline, so if I don't get back to you, just know we'll follow up. This is maybe a pretty rare situation, but what would we do for a home that receives PG&E electric service and has a propane tank?
So you would just receive the electric portion of the incentive. Unfortunately, there's no incentive structure for propane as a commodity. So in that case, you would receive the portion of the CAHP incentive that is stipulated for electricity, which is that split I was talking about a minute ago. I know in the last program it was a 65-35 split, 65 electric, 35 gas. I'm not sure if that's going to be the split moving forward. We're still ironing that out, but you would only receive the electric portion of the gas-electric split if you're using propane.
Great. Question for you about the EDR, the CAHP EDR calculator and the modeling software. So okay. Will CBEC and Energy Pro have that calculator, or just CBEC? Res?
They will both have it.
Okay, great. Okay. Question about, I guess, so along the lines of SMUD and Roseville, do you know about Marin Clean Energy? Do they have a program that's aligned with CAHP? Do we have a contact we can direct folks to for that program or for that utility?
I do not, but we could possibly look into that. I'm not familiar with that program.
Yeah, I don't think we've worked closely with them in the past, but I know they have a lot of programs, so we'll see if we can find one, and we can share about that.
Good question.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a sort of I don't know if you mentioned this, but it's sort of a core point. So as we're transitioning from the CAHP score to the EDR, you said it's not really that different. It's like from shifting from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Can you just confirm that the EDR, the lower score is better, right?
Yes.
So the incentive.
Yes, the lower EDR score is better. Zero EDR means that you've offset all energy use at the home has been offset.
Yep.
So the TDV value of energy at that home is 0.
Right. Okay. So, Nick, we do have a few questions coming in about how CAHP works with all-electric homes. It's kind of a tricky issue, and it is, at this point, it's still a minority of folks that are participating in CAHP. Do you want to hold those kinds of questions, or would you like to take those on the air? Or just make a general statement?
So for all-electric homes, we should have some more information about where the future of that's going to go in the next month or two. It's a topic that we don't have enough time left to dive into today. But with the changes the CEC is making, looking to make moving into 2019, we are looking at how we need to deal with the all-electric packages and all-electric homes. So yeah, that's something I should probably take offline and maybe cover in the next webinar once we have a little more clarity on the direction of the CEC.
Yes, and CAHP tends to follow kind of the statewide trend in terms of what the CEC defines, so we're tied to that a little bit. Okay, I'm going to give folks 1 more minute to type in any last questions. And I think, Nick, if you click this slide again, folks will see the contact info.
Oh, yep, sorry.
It's okay. And you'll have that from us. We'll follow up with everyone after the webinar. And we will be sharing the slides and recordings to everyone. And you'll see Nick's email here. He's probably the best person to ask those tricky questions to. And Allison is our go-to for applications for PG&E, but also Roseville and SMUD, and also multifamily. Okay, I don't see any other questions, Nick.
Great. Well, I thank everybody for taking the time out of your day. If you have follow-up questions, please feel free to send them to me. We will get a follow-up out to everybody with all the new documentation, and all the new documentation will be live on the website soon. And thanks everybody for coming out. We look forward to looking at and working with your new efficient projects.
Okay, let's wrap it up. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll be talking with you shortly, I'm sure. Okay, bye everyone.